Wow, look at that. We get to look at ourselves.
Present and accounted for. He was just driving a tractor.
All right, so who we got?
I'm missing somebody.
We got Jeff,
So,
Terry,
Doug and Gail. Gail's gonna be late.
myself, Pat,
You have a lot of people, I was out of town.
Tim,
Yeah, we do. In fact,
Preston.
The line was too long, we should have had two tractors.
Niles,
Let them learn.
and John.
is everybody sober getting on the tractor?
Was it?
Tim, Preston, Niles, John.
It's awesome. That lighting ceremony is awesome.
Oh, where'd John go?
It was.
One of my,
I guess he'll come back.
You know why it's my favorite, man? It's truly Poolsville people,
It's awesome.
and generation,
Yeah.
really, it's a great guy. And not your tractor line, that man, people.
Still use Alex's switch?
Well, it gets people up there too.
Uh-huh.
Yes, yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
Who is that guy?
It gets them way up.
Left over from the flavor.
I mean, part of it.
You guys good? Jeff had him.
Take a few more handfuls.
Yeah, we're.
Okay, all right, we got 7:02, Poolsville Park Streets and Recreation Board, December 7th, 2022. Present is Jeff, Terry, the other Jeff, myself, Pat, Tim, Preston, Niles, and John. I guess we call this meeting to order. Next meeting is January 4th, 2022. I guess not listed here is we got an email that we're missing a couple meeting minutes. I know Terry sent me the ones from, I think it was last month, but I forgot to send them to you.
Yeah,
I think we're also missing two others that we'll have to,
so one thing that
Gail,
we just have
Gail I think
to,
had one or two of them. And
we just have to confirm is if the September ones were approved at the October meeting? They were, okay, then those are good. Then we have the November meeting and October meeting minutes that we have to have. And then
Good point.
the March meeting minutes were approved, but the office just doesn't have a copy of those, so we just need whoever did those to send them to me.
Who took the November meeting minutes? Gail was out of town.
October,
I think we were all gonna put them together.
Oh,
November
You
9.
guys did.
Jeff
Yes,
and
yeah,
I-
Terry and
Jeff
I have got that. Terry sent me what he had. I have not.
Gail had October. I thought we.
Yeah,
approved
so,
those.
so November's, getting finished up.
Right.
I thought we had approved October,
Yeah, I thought we approved October.
at the last meeting.
No, we didn't have minutes for the last meeting.
Okay.
So,
Well,
yeah.
wait, we didn't have October minutes?
We didn't have October minutes. The staff didn't have them to distribute them. So
Correct.
if you have them,
October would be, yeah, for the November one.
yeah.
I'll track it, I'll track it.
Yeah. Okay.
Niles, if you don't, can you shoot me an email with that information? That would be, then I'll
Yeah.
I'll coordinate it.
I sent something.
I know you sent something, so-
earlier, so I'll resend it to you after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
What-
I'm
if-
certain Gail took the October minutes.
Yeah, and she just hadn't been. I think she wasn't at the November meeting and that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
Right.
that's what happened.
yeah.
Just a correction Terry made. He said, next meeting is January 4th, 2023.
Oh yes, I will. Thank you. It's always that New Year's thing that gets you.
Commissioners meeting on the second?
The commissioners' meeting will be on that Tuesday,
Okay.
so that'll be the 3rd. So it'll be, so if we need to, the main thing is, I just put this date in there because the planning commission meeting for January is the 11th, I think, which is that next Wednesday. So it's that thing, if we wanted to keep the Wednesday, it would be that, the first Wednesday in January is the 4th.
Do you want to do it again where you and I combine?
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so, I guess last month we wanted to talk about, we were gonna have someone come in and talk about the rubber mulch. And
Yes,
That person was
so-
unable to make it, but you said
Yes,
they
they
are
are here.
available
Yeah, we
online.
sent all of you his written comments, but he's here. So I'm gonna ask Pat Lee to, unmute here. There we go.
Does he have a time?
Yeah, I think it's generally 3 minutes, but as you said, you already have his
Written testimony?
written testimony, so we can go from there, okay?
Thank you.
Are you, Pat, can you hear us?
Hear me?
Yeah, can you speak up a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah,
Is that
there we
better?
go.
Can you hear me
Perfect.
now?
Yep.
Yep.
mhm.
Thank you.
All right, great. So this is my first time offering testimony like this, so hopefully everything goes smoothly. But just let me know if I hit my time limit, and I'll go from there.
Certainly. Can you just before you start, can you do your name and address for the record?
Sure. My name is Patrick Lee, full name. That's my full name, no middle name, and people call me Pat for short. My address is 20009 Westerly Avenue, right here in Poolsville. Anything else you need for the record?
Nope, that's
you're good.
perfect.
Okay.
You can proceed.
Great. So I think in my written testimony, I did a little intro of myself. My family and I moved here relatively recently, back in May. We've been enjoying Poolsville, and we have a young 2-year-old daughter who's been taking advantage of all the playgrounds and running around and having fun there. And I also mentioned, in my professional life, I'm a natural resources economist, and I work for the U.S. Department of the Interior. So normally deal with a bit of toxicological information and environmental restoration in my day-to-day work. So I'm just going to kind of go through the written testimony again. I think, I want to hopefully offer a few more points on it that didn't necessarily come across in there. Hopefully you all have had a chance to look at it, read it, and consider it a little bit, but I just want to highlight a few points. So of course the question in front of you is whether it makes sense to spend, as I understand it, about $90,000 to remove this rubber mulch. And there are many ways to kind of tackle that question. But one way, of course, that economists like to think about it is with maybe doing a benefit cost analysis. And to oversimplify it a bit, basically trying to give you a sense of what am I buying for this 90K? What kind of value am I getting on the other side? So that written analysis I submitted really isn't a formal benefit cost analysis. It's more like a sort of sketch about how you might proceed to a full benefit cost analysis and try to compare this 90K to what you're getting on the other side, what kind of benefits you're achieving. And I should stop there and just, make it clear, like, this is all just my personal opinion. This is not in any way or shape or form endorsed by the U.S. Department of Interior, of course. So to just go over the basics again, I looked at just one of the contaminants that could potentially be in this rubber mulch with lead, just because the effects there are pretty well studied. And, we're also crunched on time here, so we can't go over the whole alphabet soup of things that might be in there. One of the other things you could look at is like PAHs, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are also well known. But, lead gives you a pretty good baseline of some of the potential impacts that you might see, especially for young kids, since blood lead levels are pretty well studied in young children, and that's where you tend to see some of the biggest impacts over a child's lifetime. So one of those well-known impacts is cognitive and mental impacts, which can show up as lowered IQ scores over time. So one way that economists can try and quantify the impacts of lead level exposure is through the impacts on a child's IQ over their lifetime, and therefore in maybe the kind of earnings that they might get in their jobs over their lifetime. So the study that I shared and cited in that write-up does this for 2-year-olds over their lifetime. And it basically takes a hypothetical situation and says, if you were to reduce the level of lead that they were exposed to so that their blood levels would come down to the point where you would raise their IQ by 1 IQ point, how much benefit would that get you in terms of earnings saved in their lifetime? So that's one way of trying to quantify how much removing lead might benefit someone over their lifetime. And for each of these kids, 1 IQ point would translate to about $22,000 over their lifetime. And that is adjusted for inflation, the 2022 numbers. And you can do this math in a couple different ways. And you can think of it as if 5 kids had this benefit where you lowered their blood level exposure to the point where they could increase their IQ by 1 point, that would translate to about $112,000 of earnings over their lifetime. And that's just one IQ point. And that's just, we're talking about a very small change there. If you can imagine doing this many times over for higher blood lead levels, you would see a much larger benefit. So the basic point here is comparing that $90,000 to that number that I just cited, you can kind of see how, if you were to talk about just small impacts, you are talking about 90K today, but you're talking about potentially a lot of money when you multiply this over a lot of kids and over a lot of exposures over children's lifetimes. So obviously these numbers I'm throwing out there are hypothetical, and a lot of this depends, the applicability of these numbers to our situation depends a lot on what the actual exposure is through this rubber mulch. And I know that part of what you all are waiting on is that part 2 report by the EPA that will actually tell us what the exposure levels are. But I think from a basic logical standpoint, EPA's work hasn't really looked at impacts in young children. And it certainly hasn't looked at these impacts over time. They're just saying at this point with these materials, we just see maybe a small potential risk. But they haven't gone ahead and said, what does this look like, especially for small kids where we know the effects are largest over a lifetime. And they've only done it for a few chemicals, not for everything out there. So basically, I just want to close and say, if EPA's study shows that there's no real exposure threat, then the benefits of removing the mulch are going to be small or non-existent. But if there is a real exposure threat, then the numbers I put out there start to look more realistic and probably are an undercount because they're only looking at one contaminant. And there are a lot of different things in that rubber mulch. So my personal view is that in the face of that uncertainty, we should probably err on the side of caution and not have these materials out there in the first place. So taking on the cost of the removal does seem like a very costly thing to do in the short run. And 90K is nothing to sneeze at for a small town's budget. But I think, in the end, if there are real exposure threats, it could end up being a very small cost compared to the effects in our kids in the long run. All right, thank you. And let me know if there's anything I should follow up on.
Thank you, Pat. Hang on a sec, though. We might think we have some questions. If you don't mind.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. And I'm just curious, so when will the EPA study be available?
We're not entirely sure yet. So their process sort of goes by the rulemaking process, so some of their reports will come out at the new year, some of them come out at the end of the fiscal year, so on and so forth. So we'll just keep an eye on that, and once we have it, we can send it over, and you can all look at it. So.
Okay. And then I have a question for Mr. Patrick. How does an exposure happen? Does the child put the rubber mulch in their mouth, or is it just off-gassing, or how does that happen?
Is he still
Can
on?
you, yeah, he's still on. Yeah, let me just see if I can get him unmute here. Hang on.
Okay.
Sorry,
Oh, no, there he is.
Was there a question directed? Yeah, I couldn't
Yeah.
quite hear.
Go ahead.
Say the question again, Jeff.
Oh, yes, I'm curious as to how does an exposure happen? Does the child put the rubber mulch in their mouth, or is it just off-gassing when they're playing on the equipment? I have no idea how that happens.
I couldn't quite hear everything. The audio is still a little choppy, but I think the question, if I'm heard right, was about how the exposure might happen, like how would they actually get it? Is that correct? Okay. Yeah, that's
correct.
more of,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm an economist, so I have more of like a different specialization. It's better to ask a environmental toxicologist that question, or like a public health specialist. But my understanding, right, is like, especially for little kids, it's when they are rolling in the mulch, when they're grabbing it, putting it in their mouths. Like when I watch my daughter playing on the playground, just anecdotally, she likes to jump all up and down. I'm sure you've seen the kids rolling around in it, and they get sometimes you see the dust ending up on them. And so it's, the EPA information that I've seen says that there's potentially low amounts of the materials, like the lead and all that other stuff that's getting on the kids. But I'm not totally sure I buy that. And partially, and this is my personal opinion, EPA's reports tend to err on a very conservative side, and they tend to also have a lot of industry influence in them. So I'm not always sure that they are taking the most precautionary approach when it comes to their studies. But that, again, is a personal opinion.
I don't know what the wood industry thinks of, timber industry.
How many parks do we have?
We only have 2 right now with rubber mulch, or 3, 4.
4.
Yeah, Lori Gore,
Wooten Tot lot, Brooks Park, the big one over bottom of Tot lot, and then Elgin.
That new one has it too.
Oh, the new one that we didn't do, but that's what, was put in over Westerly.
that's what the builder did.
That's what the builder did, yeah.
We're just gonna wait for the EPA.
We're waiting for the EPA to come out. That's the stance we're taking right now.
Thank you very much for the testimony. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here.
So Jeff, one other thing, we just had a resident who had a conversation, who had sent some emails to Preston and I about electric equipment, electric vehicles, and they just messaged that they have a time crunch, so maybe we can take them next, and then we'll go to the people for.
Is it on the agenda?
No, it's not. This was just a conversation that they had wanted to bring up, and it's related to some of the
It's
stuff
part
which
of the
we'll get
budget.
into
It's part
later,
of
which is
the budget
the
request.
budget recommend.
Request and everything.
Yes.
All right.
Budget recommendation.
Yeah. Okay. So can.
Thanks, Pat. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So can JD unmute? All right.
So we want to jump back then to the mulch?
Yes, how are you
after
doing?
that- after
Yeah.
this?
I actually have got, so I don't totally know what you're looking for, but I believe that Joyce, Bullsville Green's executive director, wanted to just give you guys some input about using electric, like lawn mowers, electric weed whackers and things like that, and some of the options out there. We have done a lot with those. I actually use quite a bit of those in my own use. I have a ride-on zero-turn lawnmower. It's all electric from Ego, along with their whole environment there. And I guess that she just wanted to relate to let you know that it's a really good way of going. Besides reducing the amount of noise and pollution and all that, the maintenance on it is pretty much nothing. I used to have like electric chain or gas chainsaws, and every time I went to go to use them, I could never get them to start. They're always a pain in the butt to maintain, and when we store them, they always leak something somewhere, some fluid. You don't have that problem with the battery type electrics. I mean, you just put the battery in there, it runs. You need a new battery, you switch out the battery. I think one of the questions was how do we use something like this in a lawn service where you use it over a long period of time? So one option is to use something like if you had a Lightning F-150 Lightning truck, which has tons of electrical outlets. It's like bringing a huge battery with you. It even has a 240 amp or the 30 amp plug. So you can run really heavy duty equipment off of something like a Lightning F-150. But the other option, I know some of the lawn care people have done, actually created their own trailers that they put a battery packs in them, like you do have in a car or a Powerwall, where you can actually have your own battery packs charging the lawn equipment batteries and making them available that way. They plug it in at night. So the whole system's all charged up, all your batteries are charged up, and if you ever need to swap them out, you can continue to charge those throughout the day. So that's another way to do it on a big lawn service. I don't know anything else that I can kind of enlighten you on using electric.
thought that we talked
as
about
opposed to
this
gas.
as a board, and the load that the amount of mowing that the town does. I mean, actually, we want to go in that direction. There's no. I mean, that's the way we're looking. But right now, the technology does not exist. It would be mowing 24/7, right? From what.
Okay, so we looked into it
Can
just
you do
recently, and our mowers that we run has on average a 72-inch mowing deck. They do not make a mower that has a 72-inch mower deck. We also have a batwing mower that is 15 foot wide that we use. As it stands now, it takes me 4 days, 8 hours a day to get everything done. The largest ones we can get are 60-inch decks, and we normally run 5 mowers. So now I'd have to run 6 mowers to cut the same amount of grass. So that means I need to hire another personnel. Another thing is,
Sorry, I really can't hear you.
I said the biggest ones we can buy are 60-inch deck if we go electric, but our machines are 72 inches, so we lose a foot per mower. So if I'm gonna cut the same amount of grass, instead of having 5 mowers, I'd have to have a 6th mower to keep pace. Other problem we have is
Right.
that,
I'm sorry, I really can't hear the conversation going on there, but,
the largest mowing deck I can
It's
get,
just, it's not,
Hang on.
we're not projecting low
We're
enough,
we're
not
trying
you.
to
Yeah.
get, I'm trying to see. Let me see. It should be, can you hear anything at all?
I can hear you very clearly.
Okay. hang on.
Well, it's because it's picking up your computer.
Yeah, it must be, yeah. But
Okay, I'm gonna
that's
go
not
to the
yeah,
computer.
Just go here and just do it this way.
okay, can you hear me now? You
Yeah,
got me
that's
now?
better. I can
Okay.
hear you somewhat.
So we looked into it. The largest zero-turn decks they make are 60 inches. We run 72 inch. We run 5 mowers, 4 days a week. If we need to cut the same amount of grass, we'd have to get a 6th mower because we're losing literally 5, for each mower, we're losing a foot on the cut. So we actually have to get another mower and another person to cut the same amount of grass. Second problem we have, when we have rain events and we can't cut at the normal pace and it gets very heavy, and I talk to the professionals, you're at a loss. You cannot make up the ground. They are not strong enough to go with heavy grass. And so we are industrial. We're not a golf course. We cut high grass. We cut ball fields. So right now, and we're not against technology. It's just not there yet. Now the chainsaws, we've purchased some chainsaws to do the smaller jobs. We purchased just recently another electric salt spreader, so we don't run a gas motor off the back. So we are trying to move in the direction, but like our trucks, during a snow event, we will run 8 to 12 hours consistently with a heater. We're pushing snow, have a salt spreader. The technology's not there yet to support a 1-ton vehicle. When it does, we'll be the first one to buy it, but it's not there.
Yeah, I mean, I think, until the technology's there, I
I'm
don't think.
losing you
we-
again, but, so I understand from what I'm hearing is that it's just, you don't think the electrics are quite as capable as the gas.
Exactly, not
Overall.
at this time, yes.
And,
And not against it,
so-
they're just not there yet.
For our use, for home use, it's great, but for the town, it is, the technology's not there yet. That's,
And we want to-
okay, I would a little bit disagree, but I don't,
And
I
you-
can't tell you. how
if you
they all
want to get
compare.
industrial
I know-
folks to come on here and show us, we'd happy to entertain it, right? Because, like we said, that's the direction we want to go, but until the technology's there, we can talk about it all day long, but there's not an option for us to buy, to do what we need to do.
Okay, well, I
And-
do know in my zero turn, I have no trouble cutting down like 3 foot.
Right, but did you hear the discussion on the width of the actual deck? How big is your deck? on your zero
My
turn?
deck is certainly small, but they need.
Exactly, we run what? 72 inch? That's a 6-inch or 6-foot deck.
Yeah.
It's a whole different
Yeah,
story. We're talking about
and-
lots and lots and lots of grass, not just our yards. It's
I think since this wasn't on the agenda, we should put it on the agenda for another time.
well, I mean,
and we can have
we're just gonna nip it in the bud. We want to go that direction, but the technology's not there. So eventually, we will start to replace, we're already replacing,
Some equipment.
Some equipment with electric.
Fully-
it's the direction that the town's going, but until the technology's there, I mean, the conversation just doesn't make any sense to have.
Okay, I kind of heard a little bit of you talking about the chainsaws, and I absolutely love my chainsaw. I mean, the 18-inch blade, and it cuts through just about anything as long as it's a sharp blade. You know, you get down to a dull blade, and it is a challenge. With a sharp blade, it cuts through, no problem at all. And like I said-
Have you cut a 2-foot diameter tree or a 3-foot diameter tree with it?
I have not gone to a 3-foot, but I've cut probably a 2-foot. I can do it.
Okay.
I mean, it's an 18-inch chainsaw. So
So, but
I mean,
I
I-
Bottom line is, we want to get there, that's our plan.
That's the plan.
But right now, with the amount that we cut, and Preston's made that point very clear, is
Yeah, and
the,
I don't,
we don't
and I
have-
don't know if, the lawnmowers are gonna keep up with what you're talking about with the gas lawnmowers, but I do think the chainsaws do, and I do think, the leaf blowers do.
yeah, no, we're moving in that direction
And
and
we do have
purchasing
some
those,
leaf, we,
yes.
we
Yeah,
do have
absolutely.
some leaf blowers. We also purchased a push mower for doing around the town hall and the smaller places. So we are for it, but for the overall, like the leaf blowers,
Yeah.
they do not match the same power yet
Yeah.
as the big gas ones. You know, 5 horsepower. It just doesn't work yet. But soon as they
I think
do,
that-
we'll be the first ones to buy them.
I think you're gonna have to at some point anyway. I think they're gonna outlaw them in Montgomery County.
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
don't always follow Montgomery County's laws here. We
Yeah.
have our own.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
Yeah.
but
JD,
I'm
thank-
very impressed with their leaf blowers. So I use the Egos. But anyway,
A lot of folks here.
JD, hey, appreciate your input, though. And
Put on the agenda.
yeah, you ever want a demo of it? I've got all their equipment, so I can definitely show it off and show you what it can and can't do. So,
All right.
Thank you
very
guys.
much.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Bye.
Okay, back to the mulch real quick. Do we want to stick with waiting for the plan to come out? Or the other option would be that we present to the commissioners the option of, since budgeting is coming up, that over the next 5 years or whatever, they put away, if we want to do this, it's just an option, that we, put away the money so that we could maybe do one park for the next 5 years, or.
that was put in, it was supposed to last 20 years.
Yeah, and I'm just throwing out options.
Yeah, I mean, the EPA
For
could just say,
discussion.
but I'm looking at a study from NIH right now that I just Googled while Pat was talking.
Who says it's bad? There's a lot of people that love it.
Yeah, oh, I agree.
There's some people
Yeah.
just dislike it.
Yeah.
Until the EPA comes out, why even?
There's a study from NIH too that we can take a look
And there's
at.
enough parts of
that-
town that are wood chip that if they wanted to travel to, it's not like they don't. We have big parts that are wood chip, we have big parts that are rubber. So you can travel
Good
to
point.
either one.
Yeah.
There's plenty, and there's small ones that, same thing, there's wood chips in it, in all neighborhoods.
Okay, so then let's, or if we make a recommendation, I guess everybody would have to agree though, but that we just do what we've currently done, adding any new rubber mulch in on hold. We're not gonna do anything. We'll continue to replace the wood that we've got and
Yep.
wait for this study,
Yeah,
to come out. And then,
that's my thought, but that's the rest of whatever the rest of you guys want.
do we know what they're here to talk about? Okay.
More than,
Who did we buy the wood chips from? I mean, the.
Is anybody here to talk about the the rubber mulch? Okay. No, rubber mulch is what, I've got the names of 3 people here, up here now.
That's
so I just wanna
that's
make-
probably either for the bouldering park or the skate park. I just want to sort of be prepared for when we get to that moment.
Perfect,
so.
thank you. Anybody got any comments on the rubber mulch?
I do. Who did we
mean-
buy the rubber mulch from?
There was a company up in Michigan, Rubber, it's actually Rubber.
Yeah, we can get you that
But we already,
information.
I brought it in one time, Jeff had
Yeah.
the spec sheet for it.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can't be the only municipality who bought this.
No,
And
there's
and we have,
Leesburg, there's other places.
Yeah.
that
so
first-
what's their position now?
they
Wait
had-
and
they had
see,
no
or?
problems with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it varies by municipality, so we can look
And
into that and get you
DC,
that
they
information.
decided not to use it, so that's kind of the.
I have a question. Would it make sense to use it at the bouldering park since it's gonna have a lot more potential for falls?
Yeah,
The cushioning.
because it's far superior.
I don't think you wanna fall on
It's
wood
far
mulch.
su- It's far,
One
it's far
IQ point
superior to wood
22,000
chips,
years.
the rubber mulch is, when it comes to safety
I like that stat.
for falling.
Okay, so Pat, you want to just make a recommendation? Or you want to make a recommendation that we just continue? So I can't,
we don't have to
or do we not have to do
make a
anything? We
You
just continue?
had
So
already,
we all
but
just
this
agree
was
that
just-
we
Yeah.
go with what we've got, what we
We're not
decided?
making a change.
No, we're not making a change. Okay,
I just want to say 2 cents, so.
yes, sir.
And I don't know when the EPA report comes out, I guess we don't know the answer on that. But clearly, if the EPA report comes out and they identify significant risks, then we have to take the rubber
Oh, we'll take
mulch
it,
out.
yeah, immediate
Oh,
action.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Agree.
Yeah, and
Until that
Preston makes a good point. We do have other parks that there are alternatives that if somebody doesn't want to go to.
Until that time, we're not going to put any more rubber mulch in new parks.
Yep.
We'll put wood chips in new parks. And then, like I say, if the EPA comes out and identifies risks, because right now we have somewhat conflicting information. Some reports say it's perfectly safe, some don't.
Yep.
So we have to wait until the EPA, and they'll be the final decider and then we'll remove it if they say it's risky, or we won't remove it if they say it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why we're waiting on it, that's why we put it on hold.
Okay, sorry, I'm just putting a note. All right, next. Quick question.
Yes.
Actually, probably towards Preston and these guys. We had talked about Halmos and potentially painting, so that pickleball guys could play in the dark, when it's dark. We were talking, at one point, we talked about painting.
Right. Well, they're
Was that on-
self-painting, they're actually self-painting Stevens Park.
Right,
They're not-
they did that, but I was,
but they're not
there
gonna
was a
move to Helmos
conversation
yet.
about
That has
Halmos.
not been accepted. So
Okay.
they're just at Stevens.
Yeah, no, I was approached,
That's
so I was
tennis.
just asked.
Tennis. Yes.
Is
Not
that,
yet.
is that something that we can discuss next month, I guess, or for maybe,
I
for the
think we need to
spring?
get some tennis people in here.
Oh, I agree. Well, I mean, well, no, we're not saying, no, they're not taking the tennis courts out. They were just saying they could do, use,
The other
paint it
option
for the
too
other
is-
half, so they could bring in portable
When
nets.
they first did the pickleball courts, they were like, it's so confusing with the tennis lines, okay?
Okay,
So we gave them that was just clean, but now they want to put lines on tennis people's courts, and they're like, well, that's confusing for tennis people.
okay.
So you gotta look at it both
Yeah,
ways.
no, I just
You
just
gotta
wanted
look
to
at
see
it
if we
both
have the
ways.
conversation
So
at
they
some point.
have a park that's gonna be fully designated for pickleball.
Yeah.
And then potentially another pickleball up at Elgin Park.
At Elgin, right.
I think they want to let.
They just want lights so that they can play at, 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah,
at
we
night.
can always do that at Stevens if we have to. We can always look at.
Or
yeah.
Elgin when we do the
Yeah.
new, yeah. Okay, I just thought I'd bring that up because I thought we had talked about it a while back. Speed humps.
Yeah, so I had, so based on the work John and I had done that we gave you last month, which was just the standards, we created a policy. So it's in the packet that I provided you, and it's on the website. But this is just basically taking all the standards that you were given last month, putting it in a form that basically adds two other things. One is the request process, so if a resident feels that they need speed humps on their street and we want to investigate that, it goes through a process that is, you request it from the town asks the police to do a speed study like we did last month, and the neighbors get notified as well that this is a project that's going on in case they want to chime in and comment on it to this board. Then the evaluation is done like the same way we did it last month, where you take the standards, you apply them to the data, and then the last part is just the decision-making process, which would be the Parks and Streets Board would take the data, look at the standards, see whether it applies to have speed humps or not. And so I just added those two things to what was provided last month. This is something that can all be done administratively. So the main thing, as I said in my memo, was, do you have feedback, changes, anything like that? So I sent it to you a little bit ago, so, if you have any thoughts, let me know.
I like
Yes.
it. Formalizing the process,
Yeah.
I think if every, I mentioned last meeting, if we entertained every single speed bump, we'd have speed bumps on every single road, everywhere in the town.
Right.
And to have a formalized process, I think, makes it just that much easier to kind of, okay, we can go
Yeah.
through this, does it meet the requirements, does it not meet the requirements, and we can make a decision. I like it.
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, Niles, great work. So I just wanted to make two things. So the speed recording devices, they're provided by Montgomery County Police Department.
yes,
They're provided for free, but there's a lot of people requesting them.
yeah,
So you just have to get in line, and
right.
when
I
you
mean,
get it, you get it.
but that's that can be part of this process, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the other thing is, I wanted to, so I think it would be useful to put in, so we don't forget later on, that what are those devices called?
Oh, yeah, putting them in ghost mode, yes.
Ghost mode, exactly,
The speed
right.
trailers is what the police refer to
Speed
them.
trailers, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So they have to be in ghost mode, otherwise, for the people who don't know,
Yeah,
ghost mode means it's still recording, it's fully functional, but the screen is turned off.
yeah.
And
I'll
why
add-
is that? Because some people will slow down when they see the number, other people take it as a challenge and they'll speed up.
Yeah.
So if you just turn the screen off, but it's still recording, then you don't have that issue.
That's good
input. Yeah, no, I'll add that in, just when we, under the study.
And then, of course, it has to, I mean, it can't ask for a speed hump that is contraindicated by the requirements here.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. But
Well,
then we would have to look at that in order
Yes.
to say whether it
Okay,
does
thanks,
or not.
thanks, Niles.
Thank you very
good.
much.
Of course.
Does that, so I guess maybe from as we have this process,
Yeah.
is it, hey, we request a speed bump at this place, and you say, well, we can't do that there because of the
Right.
location, so we won't even go to the parks. board.
Correct,
Yeah.
exactly. So in that situation, it would just be, this is what, the National Institute of, or the American Association of State Highway and Transportation
Got it,
Officials.
okay.
Standards say you can't do, so,
Got it.
that kind of thing.
Forgot to ask, anybody in the audience have comment on speed humps? On the policy that we're putting out? Okay, just figured I'd ask, I didn't want to ignore any of you.
Riveting stuff.
Yeah.
So do we need to recommend this to the commissioners then?
So, what I would say is the process that Wade and I discussed is that you guys would give feedback, we got your feedback. We'll make that the park board reviewed draft, and then it will go to the commissioners, and we'll say, here's the policy that we're instituting based on the conversation, because it's an administrative process. It technically doesn't require
Exactly.
your approval, but we're just getting feedback,
Just giving,
is what we're doing.
exactly.
Okay,
Okay.
good. So you're gonna bring that to commissioners, Jeff doesn't have to.
Right, if you just have it in your report, and I'll attach it to the agenda.
In fact, thanks, I did already
Yes, that's right.
report
Yep.
on that on Monday's meeting, yes.
Yep, that's right.
Do we have bouldering people on Zoom too?
Yeah, yes.
So we got to get those people.
Yeah.
Cover citizens' comments first.
Yeah, so,
Number 3 on the agenda.
yeah, we'll get to that in just one second, because,
Make it to the holder.
yeah. No, yeah.
All right, we'll make,
We'll speed it.
Yeah, we'll switch some of the order around here then.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sure, no worries.
No, no.
So we're good then with the speed humps?
Yes, mm-hmm.
Sorry, who's here for the skate park? How many? 1, 2. How many are here for the bouldering? All right, let's talk bouldering. You guys don't mind?
If you don't mind me
They're
asking,
they're on time crunch, so.
Yeah.
Bouldering it is.
is, if you don't mind me asking, is there anybody here against bouldering?
We have enough.
Oh, good point. Okay.
Yeah, I know, but that's wonderful, but do we,
I know, it's great.
does that mean there's any controversy? I think everybody's in favor of this anyhow.
It really is a great idea.
Yeah.
So we can,
On the call, it's
yeah, let's check,
Good question, I don't know.
let's just
Just
check.
put a thing in the chat. See-
I'm checking the chat right now, just give me 1 second. It's,
Or the chat side there?
so what they're saying is pretty much, expressing, everybody is pretty much in support. That's what everyone in the chat has said. So they have provided their, yeah,
Okay, so,
yeah. So,
Just, I want to cover our tails a little bit. Who is in favor of the bouldering and is a resident of Poolsville?
oh yeah, just make sure everybody's, okay.
Thank you. Now you know why I did it.
Well, we have 3 people that have put their names down for comments. We have to listen. We have to give them the
Yeah.
opportunity to speak on it. So
Amanda, Emma, and Alex, so
yeah.
Name and address.
push the
Yeah.
button, here you go. Name and
Hi,
address.
I'm Amanda Lakeleader, 17915 Hickman Street. I'm here to speak in favor of the bouldering park. I sent an email, I think, maybe a few months ago, and again, maybe this morning, just saying, again, how it's very helpful for adults and children, kind of spans the ages, great for strength training, agility, perseverance, which is a skill that a lot of people need today. Lots of good attributes for it. So just wanted to say I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. So just, stay, your name first. and-
Hello, my name is Emma Soderberg, and I'm 13 years old. I live at 19008 Down Circle. People's lives are stressful, and it would be nice to be able to go somewhere close by and relieve stress through climbing, but the closest bouldering places are in Rockville and Frederick. And I speak from experience. Excuse me. And I speak from experience when I say that it's very hard to find time in a busy schedule like mine to get my parents to drive me all the way to one of those places just to climb for a little bit. If there was a rock wall in Poolsville, kids and adults like me would be able to de-stress more easily and get some exercise while they're at it.
If I may, I just want to make sure that this is a boulder, not a rock wall.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And we,
'Cause that's way
and we
two different
included both on the website and in the emailed information that a lot of these residents got or on Facebook, the information that Preston had gotten on a bouldering park. So it had the examples so people could see what we were thinking about.
Just ask the young lady if that's okay with her.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
Mhm.
I boulder, I don't rock climb.
That's great.
It's very hard to follow that act. I'm Alex Markoff. I'm not a Poolsvillian. I'm a Dickersonian. So, but I do, I have an office here in town, and I would just echo what has already been said. Obviously, it would be, I think, a great new adventure here in Poolsville to have a bouldering wall. I think it would benefit, obviously, the kids that are here in town, and also kids that would come here and visit to Boulder here in Poolsville. So obviously at Caleba we do a lot of rock climbing and similar activities, and we'd be happy to participate in the project however we could pitch in and help out. Yeah, bring some money, or we could get all the rubber.
You would donate staff, right?
We get the rubber mulch and wheelbarrow it over if we need to. We'd be happy to do that too. Thank you.
Yep.
I did not sign up, but may I?
All right, yeah, absolutely, come on up.
Steve Smith, 19503 Conlin Court. I'm in support of the bouldering wall. It's probably the only sport my son with autism can do besides bicycling and running. So the pickleball and the tennis courts and all the football fields and the softball, they mean nothing to him, but this is something that he can do.
No, good point. Thank you very much.
Any other bouldering comments?
Do we want to see if anybody on the Zoom wants to speak? If you want to do, you can do the raise your hand feature, and we'll make sure you go. I mean, almost everyone on there has stated in the chat that they're in favor of bouldering, so I'll put that. Okay, so then we have a Chris G there. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Yes. This is Chris Kazunas. I'm at 17213 Hoskinson. In favor of the bouldering, and I'd just like to say that my twin 3-year-olds can do all of the rock walls in town. So anything like a bouldering thing would be awesome. And it'd be nice if there was something for smaller children as well, but understood if that's not, workable in this thing. And what kind of timeline are we looking at, approximate?
So, I mean, this is part of the process, which we'll talk about a little bit later, about building out the budget and planning and all of those things, and potentially looking at things like grants and things like that to expedite the process in terms of funds. So this is sort of the beginning of the process, I think is where the Parks Board is at. But we'll take from this, with direction of the Park Board, what we need to do to learn what we want to try to get to for the next steps.
Yeah, but typically in years past, the way it has worked is if there's for the skate park, or I'm sorry, for the dog park, for example, we made a recommendation to the commissioners to start funding the dog park. They make the decision on how much they want to fund per year out of the budget, and then Wade was able to find a grant, and it got built to 6 months later. But that's not always the case. It could take up to 2-3 years to fund it. So that's why I say, be prepared.
Yes, skate park was the same setup.
Yeah.
That took over a year.
I think it was
And then
I think we
ended up with
recommended
state
a
grants.
5-year funding period for the dog park, and it was done in 6 months. So it just depends on what kind of state money is out there.
On what we can find, on what we can find and what's available, and the processes on all of those things as well. But this is part of what this discussion tonight is about, is and what we'll talk about later is preparing for future years and that kind of thing. with funds.
Yeah, we also had to figure out where we would put it.
Yeah, which can be part of that.
Totally
process.
understood. Thank you.
Okay, so anybody want to, we have to put forth something to the commissioners? Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I just had a quick thing here. So at the last Parks Board meeting, you asked me to bring the topic of the bouldering park to the commissioners, which I did. And the commissioners are very much in favor of the Parks Board proceeding with the next steps towards the bouldering park. It's, I just want to be clear, it's not a commitment for funding yet, but it's definitely a commitment to go to the next steps. Thank you.
So let's talk about next steps, which would be, we would recommend to the commissioners to actually start a study on where to put this, how much it would cost. We'd get the town engineer to start doing some work for us, and they'd have to approve a budget for that, and then that would come back. So we probably wouldn't revisit the topic at least until next year, and then we would get some ideas on where it could go and how much it would cost, and then we can make those recommendations for the commissioners to start budgeting. So just so people know what the process is.
You want to turn that into a motion? I just put you on the spot there, but, or do we need, or,
I'm not sure we need it, because the commissioners charged us with.
right, but we have to then we have to turn back around, and the commissioners are the ones that would have to tell John to do anything, and as well as Niles to do the next steps, so.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I mean, they've given us that, but we've done what we're doing tonight. And
Well,
then-
do we have an idea as a board where we, where we would put this thing, right?
Hand in hand with the skate park.
I know we said skate park, but where, in the middle?
Right in the middle, that'd be perfect.
So would be no, no, I know, but I mean, there would be no community center,
Yeah, the green space in the middle of the parking lot.
right?
Yeah.
No, which was supposed to be for a community center.
If I may,
Community center. was supposed to be
well-
with the park, I think.
we're working with
No, I was right.
Montgomery County, I forget what department it is, I forget that. The lady's name is Amy Doan, D-O-I-N, I think. And we just concluded, or she just concluded a POR, that's a project of requirements. I forget what the letters stand for a community center. Now, that's not a commitment for funding, it's not a commitment that anything's going to be built. And it's one of their steps that they will take if it gets to that point, so there's no commitment really yet. Although I will say that having the funding for the POR is already a step in the right direction. But they will then undertake to find a suitable location. A suitable location such as, but this is not by any stretch a done deal, a suitable location could be by the swimming pool, because Montgomery County already owns that property and whatnot, or somewhere near the high school, again, because Montgomery County already owns that property. But none of this is decided, but just in terms of do we have to worry about a community center? I mean, I don't know if the answer is yes or no, but I'm leaning towards Montgomery. We're going through the process with Montgomery County for that.
My only other question was like town liability. I know we already have a skate park, so there's no liability for the town there.
So-
Plenty of injuries could happen there. I'm just,
Yeah, so we had a resident who asked this question, and Preston and I talked about this a little bit, and we've not necessarily, gone through fully what legit and all of that would say. However, most of the time, the municipality is not held liable for things that happen, people's failure in using the equipment, okay? Our liability is to maintain the equipment, right? So to
Yes.
maintain the bouldering park,
Materials.
the materials, all of that. So, in terms of if somebody falls off and breaks their arm, right? As long as the,
As long as the handle didn't fall off.
exactly,
Yeah, like the skate park,
Mhm.
we were
Yeah.
concerns about that, if it didn't affect it, and you figured there's drops and.
sure, yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I'm just asking the question.
So-
It's not an unusual thing.
Yeah.
Out west, there is bouldering parks, and it just brought out,
Yeah.
I think there,
And-
nothing special.
and many municipalities have
Yeah.
these types of facilities, so it's something that's within the normal, use, so.
I'm looking at you, buddy. I can't make a motion. I'm not supposed to.
Yeah, it's the same person who already spoke, so they just have left their hand out.
recommendation
Yeah.
to the commissioners.
Right, that we start a study, yeah.
Yeah.
And we get John's group involved.
He doesn't do anything.
So, I mean, the big thing too is that we would, I mean, as part of this, we're gonna have to decide, ages, like, we are gonna want it
Yeah, I mean, we
usable
looked at,
for
like-
small kids as well as adults.
Well, Jeff, when I
potentially.
talk to those guys out there, they say it's easily integrated into the different age groups within a limited area.
Right.
You know, you have your smaller end, and and the thing is, some of the ones they had were like, oh my God. And the bad thing is that, like, when my kids were 7 or 8, a 20-foot wall would be like, yeah, boy, yeah, they're on it, So that's on the parents to do that. But they did have some boulders pre-shaped that were for younger people, which you could put in an area that
Yeah.
it just progressively get worse. And we do have a pretty good sized piece of land over there.
Right, so I'm assuming, I mean, we're gonna have to do this similar to how we did the skate park. And,
Yeah.
And then, get town input and.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because, same thing, even with what we're doing tonight with expanding the skate park.
Yeah.
Yes.
Getting the pool and the other.
There's a lot that would go, I mean, just, you're looking at
Getting
the prices
suggestions.
of the size of these boulders.
So John,
That's just
how
one
would you say we
person's.
move forward?
That's one group's estimate.
That's
So,
El Dorado, yeah.
so without doing,
I didn't
Right.
do 5 or
So-
6 different.
And where is this out of?
Colorado?
yeah, I believe so.
So this El Dorado's in Colorado, so the shipping charges probably weren't a lot.
Right.
I'm assuming that a couple thousand ton boulders.
Again, we're just getting into.
Okay, I'm gonna cut
Yeah.
you guys
I know.
off.
No, I'm just-
I want to get
these are
back,
all
we
things
got,
that-
Yeah,
still
yeah.
got the other skate park, it's gonna take us a while tonight. John.
Then go ahead and make a recommendation.
No, I'm not,
Oh.
I wanted to ask John a question. What would be, similar to how we did the skate park?
So what you're gonna have to come up with is basically the footprint of whatever you wanna do. And then from there, we go ahead and look at it, and see if the stormwater management's impacts there. Also, if there's any other impacts, I don't know how the county's gonna look at it. I would think it would be minor, and then from there, we'd go ahead and do up a set of bid documents to get it out. Put up.
But prior to doing bidding, we would, have input, right? Yeah, the same kind of thing we did with,
Do with the skate park.
right, okay.
You decide, there are people that do this for a living.
Absolutely, yeah.
Things are supposed to be set and what size things need to be done. You'll have that person give you direction.
Right.
Or make recommendations.
Do you mind making a motion? Yeah, Pat doesn't
Well,
want to. I don't know why.
That was
I'm
a-
not supposed to.
not design it, that was planning, a planning document. And that is more of a
Yeah,
planning
that's
document
with John's
for
group,
that piece of
with the
parcel,
engineering
that parcel,
firm.
rather than a full design.
Terry's got it.
Whose responsibility is it to determine the location?
We make a recommendation and then you guys okay it.
So your location, you're gonna look at what properties that you have available, determine if there's anything else that possibly is going in. Because like, for instance, there's talk about putting a pickleball court down off of Jerusalem Road, down off of Elgin, right? Well, it may not be proper. You have to decide where you're gonna put things. And then kind of work back from there to determine what size it is. Does it meet the requirements of your design team?
Okay, thanks.
You're good.
All right. So, make a motion to recommend to the commissioners to start the process of creating a bouldering park. Any adjustment to that?
Second.
Recommend process. Anybody, you seconded? Or somebody seconded? Pat seconded. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? We're good.
Cool.
Skate park design.
That one, done.
Yes. Skate park.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we hope once we get into the design, you guys are involved. Tell us what you think, what you like. All right, back up here.
Yep, I'm trying to get that in as well, so. Participants.
What's it? Okay, so we've got multiple, did you guys have all seen, hopefully seen this?
Yeah,
Would you?
like it?
Anybody
Does
wanna
anybody
ju-
have
anybody wanna
input
jump
on
in
the
and-
skate park?
and Make comments, recommendations, or approvals, inputs, either way. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me speak. My name's Thomas McCaskill. I live at 17119 Spates Hill Road. One thing that was brought up about the skate park, a couple of people have talked about, is since it's not manned, sometimes you have like spray painting and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I skateboard all over DC, Maryland, Virginia. I go down to Florida. I go all over the place. And one thing that's been working in DC, they got a new park at Shaw, and what they did was they went ahead and put a wrought iron fence up, and they put a lock on it. You know what I mean? And that way, it has to be unlocked in the morning, and then they lock it up when the sun goes down.
We had a fence.
And they just-
You had that right years ago, right?
But that was a wasn't wrought iron. Wrought iron's a little harder to destroy.
I mean, the one down, yeah, the one at Shaw, I think it's almost 20 feet high. So, and it does keep the kids from spray painting. I mean, I'm surprised how pristine it is. You know what I mean? So, just an idea. I mean, I know manning a park is pretty expensive. I know Rockville does it, but it is pretty expensive. But it would keep some of the problems with maintenance, I think, for y'all.
I drove by Olney's Park. That looked pretty pristine too. And they don't have a fence around it or anything.
Yeah, and now also I know the.
It's there in Olney. Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a little kiosk there.
And the skate, like the skate shop right by there, like if the town couldn't always open it up, somebody volunteers from the skate shop and they come open it up. That's what they've been doing. But it's been working for them pretty good, just to give you an idea. And but that's pretty much it. And do we know where we're in the process with the design and build and funding, or what we need to do to try to get funding, or you all need help with raising money, or?
I think we're still looking at the proposed design.
Okay.
I mean, that's where we're hoping some input from someone like yourself who's
Okay.
knowledgeable. Have you seen the designs?
Yeah, from Pillard. Yep. Somebody posted it on the Poolsville Skate. Yeah.
So does that look like?
Yeah, that looks good because it has enough street. It has a little bit of transition, which is nice. So I mean, it looks pretty good. You know what I mean? For a small park, it'd be great. I think.
Yeah, that's kind of feedback we get.
Yeah, and it's going to be a nice addition. With the pool and everything, man, that just really is going to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And that is still one of our highest used parks, is that skate park. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like the baseball stuff, there's a spring window where it's high use, but that is all year. If there's no snow on it,
All year.
It's on.
And I think it'll help too with the bowl there, because you'll bring some older people here that are
Yes.
used to skating pools and stuff like that, and help sort of regulate some of the stuff, because it can get sort of crazy over there. So I mean, that might be
And
helpful too.
you brought up the vandalism. It goes through waves. And actually, we have a process now that if they spray paint, I can have it going the next day.
Wow.
Where before it got to a certain point, it got overwhelming.
Right.
But we have a product now that it's on, it's off by lunchtime.
Wow.
So we got that, and once they realize they can't do it, it will break the cycle on that. So we do
We
have
also
a
talked about trying to do like a mural or something in there to kind of help.
But once again, what you introduced, that when you do put paint on it, like the mornings to dew and stuff like that, I mean, it does
It gets
cause
slick.
a slicker
Real
surface,
slick, yeah.
which has been something. And the spray paint wasn't the biggest problem. Is that what I made the mistake is when they put a whole bunch of profanity, and I wanted to cover it before the elections. I just grabbed a bucket of road paint, and when that went on, it covered it, but it was really the wrong.
Slick.
I didn't know. It's when there seems a learned process. But now that we've cleaned it, I mean, it's been fully cleaned. We haven't had anything. And like I said, we learn if it's spray painted, I can have it off within an hour with the products
Cool.
that we
Okay.
have now.
All right.
Well, thanks for letting me speak. I appreciate it. And if you need help, just please let us know, you know, on the website or whatever. We'll try to help out.
Ed, you gonna bring your board over and jump on it one time?
I'll bring my eyes and watch folks jump on.
There you go.
Hey, right here, same thing.
You are a smart man, Ed. So we've got our proposal.
Yep.
We can now, if the commissioners finalize it, we can then start looking for grants, correct?
Yeah, and we've already started looking for grants, so we have one thing already in the pipeline, so we'll see how that goes, but we'll continue to look for
But
opportunities.
we
and things
need
like
to
that.
finalize this
Yes.
so that we are official with
Exactly.
applying for grants.
Has John even done a study on whether or not this design will fit over there or anything?
We looked at it briefly, I mean, just briefly, since we don't have any hard stuff yet, and it looked like it would work.
Mhm. And we walked the site as well with Brad to talk about some of the issues, so we'll go back and do more of that detailed work after this.
Okay, so who wants to push it forward?
I make a recommendation that the commissioners move forward with the planned, or planned design of the updated, planned designed update of the skate park.
And funding.
Well, are we there yet?
Well, they
I
would
withdraw my
need to
motion.
start, I guess, looking for funding, wouldn't they?
Yeah, you could
No,
recommend
I guess
that
what
we
I'm
look-
saying is,
we
are we
look
saying that this is what we want?
We accepted
'Cause
the
we have to-
design, we accepted the design, now we were going to look for funding.
Right, but this is the same thing as the bouldering park. We still need to get the commissioners still need to go to John and have John do a
the
study.
final,
The engineering.
Yeah,
side
but
of it.
but you can make that as part of your recommendation. So both things can ask for final design and for the.
Engineering
search for
study.
funding.
And an engineering study to be handled.
Yeah.
All right, so I make a motion that we recommend to the commissioners to approve the final design for the updated skate park and to move forward with a engineering study. But there's a question.
Absolutely. We're very open here.
Mhm.
That's what I'm saying.
Years ago, we used to have like 4 or 5 hour meetings. We try not to do that anymore.
I'm Rebecca Grayson, 17201 Spates Hill Road. My question is, there was an individual, and I don't know who it was, that set the fire. The money that comes back, can that go to it? Would that be kind of cool?
So that is actually, so the tot lot that was there, that had the fire, we actually got money back to redo the tot lot. So that money is going to go to that.
And we've already contracted
And we,
to have it built.
Yeah.
So that money, it's already.
that's already, yeah, that's a
I was
separate.
hoping that it
But it's already-
could go
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah,
That was our,
and so there's other, as I said, there's other things that we've already looked into and
Okay.
further sources that we will look into and consult as part of this process. But I think that's something that we can work on and continue to do as we go forward. So I appreciate that.
It's like when we initially did the skate park, it was.
Last time
yeah.
when we did the skate park, we didn't even have property. So we actually have the property, so that cuts the cost, and, you know, we have a place for it already. So things should move quicker if the money's there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this, we're approving a conceptual design, because this
Yes,
is the final
right,
design.
correct.
Or we're recommending that they approve the conceptual design.
Yep.
Just make sure we update the motion to
Okay.
include conceptual design, 'cause
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
not.
Design
We'll get a
concept.
Final engineered design.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so you're recommending the commissioners review, or we're approving to them that the conceptual design and engineering study be done, and we take this to the next step. Who seconds it? Tim did, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, got that one. Got this one.
Overtime.
The lights.
Yeah.
Have a power the lights.
Yeah.
All right, jumping, all right, I'm jumping over to crosswalks now. What were we
Yep.
talking
So-
about? We were talking about Spates Hill and Bud Road? Is
Correct.
that
This
what I
was
got here?
This was with the state. So John had reached out to the state regarding that intersection.
With Fisher, right?
And,
Yeah, Fisher Avenue.
and as I said in the memo, I sort of just summarized what the whole letter was because it was fairly long. Basically, they rejected the idea of a pedestrian island at that location, but said that they're going to do some enhanced warning signs and better visible markings for that location. Actually, John and I were having a discussion earlier today about maybe going back to the state and suggesting the flashing crossers like we have out here and see if that's something, another element to look at. I have not talked to Wade about that yet, but that was something that just we discussed.
That's
so-
something, though, that the state would fund.
Yes, this is
Well,
on state road,
Exactly,
so it's
that's what I
us
was- yeah.
asking the state to look at it.
Right, that's what I thought, yeah.
Last go around, the state had, one of the reasons that we got the Wooten Avenue section is we wanted these flashing crossings. And the state had not, at the time, accepted the use of those flashing crossings. So I know it was prior to COVID, was in study, but I don't know what the outcome is.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of.
So, and then goes to something that Jeff and I and Ed and such attended a event of the Montgomery County Municipal League chapter, and one of the priorities of the Maryland Municipal League chapter, our chapter in Montgomery County, is trying to improve pedestrian crossings in or near municipalities. So one of the things that I think we can also discuss is working with other jurisdictions on generally trying to improve these things and making this situation, something that we can sort of bring forward through that process as well. And so that's just another way of thinking about it. And again, this is just sort of ideas, so.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Niles, because what I plan on doing is contacting Monique. I think Monique, her name is Ashton? Monique Ashton, she's the president of the Montgomery County chapter of the MML, that's the Maryland Municipal League. And yesterday evening, as Niles was pointing out, a number of the newly elected or re-elected state officials were at the event that Commissioner Reed and Niles and myself attended. And one of the points that was brought up was working with the SHA State Highway Authority in order to not only move a little bit faster, but also on the topics which we've been trying to push for a while, and that is pedestrian safety. Just for an example, over by Spates Hill Road and Bud Road, and also over by the church here by Haller Avenue, because that's not owned by the town either, so.
Yeah, and down by the pool.
And exactly, and down by the pool.
I was actually going to bring up
White's
the
Ferry
church in Heller Ave. That
the church, yeah.
That's a dangerous.
It really is, yeah. No, but thank you, Niles.
Yep.
No, well, I mean, it's just you got tons of kids coming from Brightwell crossing over to get on the bus there at Holler, and it especially in dark early mornings.
There was a light there, it's out.
Yeah, we need a light. We need something. Yeah. Yep. So that's what my only comment was that.
Well, add to it. I also talked to a delegate, Lily Chi, last night about the same thing, because pedestrian safety is one of her areas, and so we'll be looping her into the conversation as well. So that's another benefit for us. So I'm going to follow up with her on Thursday.
Cool, thanks, Ed.
I'm a big fan of the new crosswalk on West Willard, thank you, and the sidewalk.
They come out pretty good, didn't it?
Yeah.
Looks really good.
Came out great.
Really good.
All right, so that's
So
crosswalk.
there's nothing we actually need to do on that.
No, it was just an update. It was just to give you all an update.
Can I make a quick suggestion? I don't know if Montgomery, we were talking about earlier tonight. Montgomery Village actually has little tunnels that they have underneath East Village in a couple different spots because they have problems. People get hit. I know DC even built in a couple places on 295, so I'm always down there. They built a bridge because people were getting killed crossing. So I don't know if if the water level's too high here to put something on the ground.
Joe, what would tell us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the,
Cost constraints with that, and
And we're talking about state.
it's
state rates.
volume, right? Like,
Yeah.
even though it's important for cross, if we don't have if it's not somebody going across all day long, like our issues are typically in the morning with kids getting to school. If it was like a busy intersection where people are crossing all day long, you know, we'd probably be able to go find money for that to get that done, but we just don't have the volume here in town. Most of our stuff's gonna have to be, I think, you know, deterrents, like the flashing lights, better, you know, the rumble strips or the you know, the paint, that reflective paint, that kind of stuff, you know, just to kind of get people. I've seen people but people got to use it too. I've seen people crossing these out here without actually hitting the lights. I'm like, you know, that's what they're there for. It's just people just step out. So yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if we had the money to build a bridge or a tunnel. I don't think that's happening.
Related to crosswalks, what's going on with the, over at Locals?
You were having another study. We had a different study.
So that was one thing that I was gonna mention actually to you all. So we've, John and I and Wade and Jim Brown have been in conversation with all of the different parties, involved with Locals, with, Jeff, blinking on his last name all of a sudden, but, and then, HMD, and then the Willard property, excuse me, thank you, next door, about how we want to address that. And some of it might end up being a crosswalk up here that goes behind the house here and sort of goes in front of John Poole House and all of that, sort of connect it that way, rather than doing something on the street side, because there's issues of visibility and things like that. It's a very hard area to.
I think the problem
But
goes
on
away
north,
once this gets built.
Tim, were you
Right.
asking about this other study? Wasn't there another?
The study was rejected.
We had a design that was presented, and there were problems with that. So we are looking at.
I didn't do it.
Yeah, he did not do it. Yeah.
Anytime Fitness, and they cross right there rather than
Right.
crosswalk.
Yeah.
So putting a crosswalk further down to the east wouldn't help that situation.
No, but the idea is if we can, well, part of the issue is trying to get people to go up or go down, because that area, the issues of where the bank is located, where the house is located, make it very hard for drivers to see. So if we are trying to get the pedestrian traffic to go some other way, it's more around that area than right there. Because that's the issue that
If you
we
put a
were seeing. I
crosswalk
think
there, you're
that's
basically
a good
just saying, please sue the town when you get hit. That's basically what we're saying.
Right.
Yeah, and it's scary when you're on your bicycle.
Yeah.
When we go there on our bicycle, I'm scared to leave. I wonder if there's like a way to go out the back, maybe?
Yeah.
Come around.
So that's the idea.
There is something safer than.
That's where they're, yeah,
You
they're talking
have to
about
cross
when
it,
we do
you have
the-
to cross at Fisher and Elgin.
When the neighborhood next to us is done,
Yeah.
then they're talking about potentially having you come this way. Yeah, coming around this way.
Yeah, so you'd go out and around and sort of where Norris is there, so. But
Yeah.
that was sort of the discussion that we've had at this point, is those type of conversations.
Well, our issue, they were cutting through between the old town hall and the residents there. the
Right,
building.
and we've had
That's what we talked about.
yes, and we've had conversations again with that. There are issues with that area and how to, there's a bus that picks up right there, a school bus that picks up right in that gap, and things like that. So it's how do we prevent, it's not about sort of, I'm trying to think of the best way of saying it. So the question is.
Deter people from crossing right
How do
there.
you deter people from crossing there rather than try to create something to allow that? Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So part of it is signage, which is something that we've talked about. And then the other part is trying to create alternatives for people so that if they're parking over here.
It has been mentioned before.
Many times.
That once assuming the Willard subdivision goes forward, that would be addressed.
Yeah, it's gonna be a moot point at that point.
That the town is looking at other abilities to gain that access a little quicker.
Yeah. So to try to connect the whole pedestrian framework, a little bit better network in that area.
Interesting.
So,
Doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
no, but I'm just saying these are the conversations that we've been having, and so that's what I wanted to relay to all of you. So.
Thank you. All right.
It is extremely serious, and I brought this up many times, and I'm glad someone is trying to do something, Niles and Wade, and I know you had the report from Arrow, which was not very satisfactory. And folks run across there, I know from the automobile supply, from Anytime Fitness, from over by the Cleaver store, in between those buildings, it's a problem waiting to happen, a very serious problem waiting to blow up. Yeah.
Walked out to that crosswalk.
Yeah.
All right, you guys ready to move on to new business?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
But the budget recommendation stuff?
Yeah, did it,
We still have Alyssa there.
Yeah.
Does she want to speak?
she
on
hasn't
something?
indicated that she's wanted to on any of these topics, but if she would like to, she's
Okay.
more than willing to.
Alyssa, thanks for hanging in there.
Yeah.
She may have walked away, who knows? Okay.
So.
All right, so budget recommendations.
So we're
You
gonna
guys-
do two parts things. First, Preston is gonna talk about his, sort of budget priorities for this coming year from the department's point of view, then we'll talk about some of these things.
Okay, mine, once again, is personnel. I'd like to continue with the program with 2 6-month employees and then 3 3-month employees during the summer months. And we know that helps our high school and college students through the summer. And then, like I said, a couple 6 months. We bring one on March 1st, one on April 1st. So they kind of overlap. And like I said, I'd like to continue with that. Equipment-wise, I'm pretty solid right now. We're working on a truck that kind of got overpassed. We got to work on a budget on that a little bit, which is not critical. We're also going to start looking at replacing our bucket truck. It's 30 years old. We bought it used. It's to the point that we'll buy another used one, but we need to move forward with that. We'll get some numbers up on that. Another thing that we're looking into, we normally put $10,000 in the budget a year for replacement of Christmas lights, and I'm asking for a one-time increase to maybe 20 for next year, because we noticed this year a lot of the ones are starting to fail, but at the same time, the ones that are the first generation lights, the archways we've had them welded up several times, but they're so old and brittle. And so, like I said, it's normally they budget 10,000. I'd like to have an additional 10,000. So I like to replace some of the larger items out there at one time.
On that note, did we get the approval, did the commissioners approve to update the electrical out there?
That's something that's in the process. We, John and Niles and I, we met with a electrical firm, and they're working up a plan. We're just finalizing how we want to have the powering out there, how we want the light to either continue with the lighting like that or uplighting. But uplighting, we have to worry about light pollution, so we'll probably go with I think most people like the trees the way they are. And so every 2 years I got to replace them, but being the LEDs, they're not a big price. But the biggest thing is, instead of having the plastic boxes with the plugs, John has a great idea. We'll have concrete ones with everything. So if a mower or kids kick it, whatever, that's the biggest thing. They just get snapped off and broken all the time. And we're upgrading the wiring. We're going to have proper wiring. We're going to have 4 or 5 designated, I think 20 or 40 amp plugs, just so when they bring in the hot oil cookers and stuff like that, and we're going to designate it up front. So we're working to we're getting it worked out, and John's working on getting some pricing for us, see how we need to move forward on that. Is that about right, John?
Quick question on that extra 10 grand. Is that something that they just put into your budget, or is that a separate line item?
No,
that
we
would
actually
need to-
have 10 grand for lighting, Christmas lighting, maintenance.
There is a line item.
There is a line item for
Okay,
it.
so which
Yeah.
we ought to get it already. And some years we use it, some years we don't. Well, this year, like during COVID, we didn't use a lot. That's how we got New Santa's Workshop. We used that to improve our thing. And this year we bought a few items, but I need some big purchases to replace the lighting out there. Some of it's just not flashing right anymore. And actually today we said that we tried to rewire some of it ourselves and just, I don't know how, I was doing it personally and I kept blowing fuses like, man, what am I doing wrong? So they got their own little, system and I can't quite figure it out. But with that said though, this past Friday, we had 1,000 people out there. I mean, it has turned in to one of the better Poolsville events for Poolsville people, not Poolsville Day. This is truly, and it's generational now. We're having people who sat on Santa's Claus years ago bringing their kids in now. So it really has grown in to a really great event. And I would like to continue, with the quality. And I'm not saying expand it, but I need to, bring our stuff up. Like I said, some of the stuff's getting a little old. And I'd like to bring it back up to where, works and, we don't have to fight it every time we take it in and out.
Right. Oh, and I meant to, it was on my top here, we were supposed to, I wanted to thank you and your crew, just to point it out. I mean, you guys always put in a lot of time and energy doing this.
Yeah.
And it is, it's a great event, and I think the reason my guys do so well, because it's them too, because everybody brings their families up. When you have your families involved, you take a lot of pride. And actually, we saw Niles and his wife come up for his first one, two pools, had his daughter up here and everything. And so, what I'm saying, when you buy into it, which my crew has, they really do think it's a great event. I brought my kids to it. Now we have young guys that have kids, they come to it. And of course, everybody, I love meeting people. They don't meet, I know people and it's like, hey man, Merry Christmas. We have a nice conversation. It's just really a great event all the way around.
But no, I just wanted to thank you.
Yep, thank you, yep.
All right. And then the other half of the sort of the budget discussion, just to sort of, this will be brief, but was talking about some of the things. One of the things was the wiring in Wayland Commons. That will probably end up being either in this year's or next year's budget. So it's just us now. In this year's or next year's budget, we just have to determine where the funds will be and where we'll do for the wiring. Things that we've also talked about, a pickleball court in Elgin was something that this board had talked about a few months ago. And so that was one of the things where we wanted to see where the board stood on wanting to recommend funding for that or where they want to put it. Again, this is for staff. This is for Wade and I and Preston and everybody to go through and construct the FY24 budget. So we're trying to get a sense of what are the priorities so that we can construct the budget and then go through the whole budget process. So this is sort of the beginning of that process. So
we could put lights in at Elgin, right?
Well, no, I don't think the lights will fly in Elgin.
Yeah, they will not fly at all.
I don't remember which corner.
I mean, we're talking
about,
just as I know all this stuff is great, but a couple of things that I've stepped back and thought about was like we're talking about the bouldering park, we're talking about upgrading the skate park, and we're talking that's probably just off the top of my head somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000. Like
Or more.
Or more.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bouldering park is probably 150, right?
Half a million,
yeah.
right?
More. Yeah.
About half a million.
The bowling park?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we're talking about $1 million.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm off by half, right? But then we need to resurface most of our basketball courts in town. There's so many other, I don't want to throw another item that's going to require additional maintenance and, until we get all the other stuff up to speed, you know what I mean? Like, it'd be my thought.
Park are down.
Oh, are they the new hoops
Yeah.
in and everything?
The hoops are being installed when it's been resurfaced, been repainted.
Yeah, it was
for-
resurfaced.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that those
If we
areas.
put another court in, it's gonna be grant money, it's not gonna be.
Yeah.
We say that, but
And we
we
end up getting it.
yeah, but I mean, if we end up getting grant money, I understand that.
Yeah,
But,
well-
but listen, grant money's state money, which comes out of our pockets too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm all for improving everything, but incrementally. I don't think we need to
And
But
that might be
part
part
of it
of
is-
what we end up doing. Part of it is looking at the capital budget and saying, here's the priorities, here's what the board has asked for, and then as part of our process is going through, what's going to be in FY '24 and what's going to be in the out years of a capital budget, so 25, 26, 27.
Right.
So you know, what I'm saying to you is not to say which way you want to go.
Yeah, no,
but more just saying that's part of the process that we can talk about.
Yeah, I just, we're throwing a lot on the town, just from the Parks Board in the last month. Do we want to throw an additional, court? You know, I'm not against the Elgin Park Court, by the way, I'm all for it.
But even if we just do the pre-work, like we're doing with the bouldering, or, you know, where we're at now, and we start looking for grants, I mean, we can't actually
And if
apply
we
for
actually
any
have a
grants unless we
plan,
have something in hand.
And then if all of a sudden, because Bobby's a couple times, she's like, hey, I got grant money here.
Yeah.
But we have, and see, as long as we set,
So I
have
guess
something in
I mean, we
place,
did that at
and
the
you still have to put just $5,000
Yeah.
in, saying, you know, we have some money on it.
And-
But then all of a sudden, that money comes by, it's like, hey, Project Open Space, we got it planned, we got the land.
Yeah, I mean,
Go.
And I've done-
priority-wise, we could say Elgin is 4 or 5 years out.
Yeah.
But if, like you said, if grant money were to hit and.
And also,
enough would-
the other thing
Yeah.
about that too is the ebb and flow of the different popularity of different sports.
Yes.
Right.
I think we got to keep that as a factor too. You know, we don't want to end up with, how many pickleball courts that aren't being used, or
No shuffleball courts.
you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, what do we?
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody does shuffleboard, right?
She does.
Bocce
But-
courts.
And on the subject of just pickleball courts and grants, there's a couple of things that I've already looked into related to it. Part of it is to pay for what we're already doing at Stevens and such. But there are opportunities out there.
Well, I mean, it's
So-
the fastest growing sport in the U.S.,
Right.
so I think
Yeah.
everybody.
But I'm saying from not necessarily our traditional sources. So what I'm saying is that there might be some other opportunities that we'll look into.
I mean, I'll
So-
support it if the board, if the
Yeah.
rest of the board's for it. I mean, I'm just putting my 2 cents out there. And I think if we do it, we make that recommendation to start the process, but not necessarily,
Yeah, let's-
doesn't have to go in
let's-
fiscal year 2024.
Exactly, that's what I agree, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Let's put it out a couple years and, yeah.
Because the other thing is, we're gonna get, with all the additional parks and everything we're talking about, we're gonna need more staff. It's going to, you're gonna have to think about that as a budgetary item as well.
And they have.
And we've
we're
talked
starting to
about
talk
that, yeah.
Okay,
Look at, just not my department either. That's
Yeah.
the thing.
That's, I know, you got water, you got.
Mine's been growing, figure, when I started, we only had 3 people, we're up to 7, and that's not even counting the additional summer help.
Right.
And, so we do have potential the Willers, I think there's another one that could be coming on. And when that happens, I will need a full-time. And when you do that, I could probably lose one of my 6-month employees, but I would still need my summer.
Yeah, but you guys are gonna be running ragged.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
But-
well, that's a long story, don't even get me
Yeah,
started.
yeah.
Stuff going on.
Yeah.
Don't even
But I think it feels to me like Niles is asking for us to produce a list of prioritized projects.
If you have things that you want included in this process, that's sort of the way that I'm saying. So if there's priorities, if you want to say pickleball court at Elgin is something you want as an out-year priority. If you want to say the priorities are bouldering park, skate park, wiring.
I would
which
go,
we're gonna
I
do
would go
anyways, but-
skate bouldering, then.
Yeah, but I'm not
I agree,
saying
yeah.
the order of it, but.
In all honesty, wiring needs to go first. That's all it comes.
Well, hang on one second, hang on. Did you?
I thought they were already doing that.
That's actually Preston's.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done that in a while.
No, but, Tim, almost everything has been upgraded. And actually, something we didn't talk about is that we're trying to rebid the Helmos Park bathrooms.
Yeah.
So that's back on the radar again.
But we already have
Some funding.
some funding for that.
Some funding
So
on
that-
that.
That's not, we're not worried about that. That's
Correct.
Not, not full.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do we?
But priority wise, the reason I say the wiring is because that is been bad for years, and we use that park, 8, 9, 10 times a year now. That needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
No, wiring out.
The wiring.
The wiring.
I thought the wiring was out of our
Yeah.
hands
Is this gonna
already.
be for the next 5 years?
Yeah.
Or
We
we're looking
approved.
20 years down the road also?
For what?
Bigger wiring.
For the wiring.
No, we're going to do it now with
Right, I
big
get that,
wiring.
but we gotta
So what's gonna happen is.
We've done this a few times already.
We're gonna,
Yeah.
We've never upgrade.
we're-
Yeah.
the park was never designed or specified to be done the way it is right now. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and put in several different PowerPoints to go ahead and do it. We're gonna upgrade the wiring, we're gonna put in different disconnects. There's a whole bunch of things that are gonna happen. But I just got last week was the anticipated load that we get from the fryers. How many fryers? That's really where the load is.
Yes.
Okay. And everybody thought that they ran on generators. They don't, because they're too noisy. So what happens is, it's too noisy, shut them down, plug them in. Wire here is,
Never designed for that.
it's not quite designed to do
Yeah.
what it's been doing.
But it doesn't really feel to me like we're gonna come up with a finalized, prioritized list tonight, unless we are, but it kind of feels to me like we should put together a list and then hash out the prioritizations pretty soon.
And,
Right, 'cause you're gonna start-
and we can do that as, the budget, the full budget won't be presented to the commissioners until
Until May.
March.
Oh, May.
And then it's approved in May, so we have this time frame, but it's now,
But we could put it on-
December.
I think the only-
Can you just give me 1 second? It's now that we are starting to do the work to put it together. So that's why I'm saying we're having this discussion now. You have it in January, right? You have your list, you have whatever it is. We come together, we build the budget, and then we present it that way. So it's, part of this discussion is to start the discussion, not
Right.
just to
Yeah, no,
figure
understood.
everything out.
Well, I mean, if
What's on our list then? So do we, because we already pushed the wiring to the
Yeah.
commissioners asking that they, so
Yeah, and so
do we
that-
want to
so-
say that that's on our priority list, or?
And that's
do we
just
need to?
something to just say, I think that makes sense, just to say, hey, this was a priority, the council's
and
always.
then now
or
we
the
did a
commi-
ton of work already for sidewalks, a ton of work already for lighting.
Mhm.
Are those already, those priorities just kind of already
Right,
in there?
so there's
Okay.
stuff that is already, like the sidewalks, we already have funding for sidewalks. We already have funding for, the paving. So we talked about this earlier today, about removing the right turn lane on Hughes Road at Tom Fox. That was already, we had already budgeted for repaving and things like that. So we can use that money to do that project, right? So that
Okay,
kind of.
so that's not on our
So-
list. I was just
right.
trying to start
giving-
writing down what we
yeah.
would have to
I'm just giving
prioritize.
examples of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, because, I mean, the scope of what we do as a board is pretty broad, because we.
Yes.
Parks and streets, and,
Mm-hmm.
that includes sidewalks and lighting and everything else.
And that's why by having this conversation, we can sort of build
Yeah,
on,
I get-
okay, these are the things we're doing, and then we do.
But some of the stuff that we've already had approved by commissioners, we don't really have to include in our priority list.
No,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
more the things from this point forward that we either,
So
have-
really, it's the two things that we've put forward tonight, the skate park, right, and the wiring, we've already recommended that.
Yeah.
And then potentially,
They're working
So
on it.
has-
The
Yeah, we're
commis- that's the-
working
that's
on
the
it, so-
commissioners.
but it's
That's-
out of our hand at this point, I think.
And I guess the really thing that when you think about it is Elgin pickleball court, do we want to make a recommendation that they start to
do the early
do
process?
the study on it?
Yeah.
Okay, what about the Stevens Park Clubhouse getting redone? Is that, see, I guess I'm
That's-
having a hard time with, is there are several things we've recommended to the commissioners. I'm not sure which ones, where they stand. and
Right,
whatnot.
so-
Can we make a list what's out there and lingering?
And that can be, and that's fine too. I think if you guys present us with that, then we can give you answers too. Because part of that process is, I'm new, so I don't have all the answers, yes. But what I can do is say, this is a good check-in moment where we say, where are we at on this, where are we at on that? And then we can say yes or no. And I think we've had discussions about the Stevens,
Yes, yes. But we
and-
haven't put a timetable on it
On-
yet.
on it yet.
We're trying to get Helmo's done, and once
Right.
that's completed, because Stevens, as Terry knows, that could be a moneymaker for us if we do it right, it could, for PAA.
Oh, yeah.
If we do it right with the concession stands, and that's so antiquated, I can't heat it because everything's open.
Yeah.
So
But we
when
know
we
all-
do it,
We know all that.
Yeah.
We're
Yes.
let's just cut and dry.
Yeah.
What
Right.
about the blinks?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Exactly.
almost bathrooms are getting done.
Yes.
That's already pigeonholed.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
need, they
Stevens has
really.
not been approved yet, but.
and that has not been
Okay, so that's
prioritized.
Right.
on the board. The bouldering park on the board, skate park on the board, wiring is approved, okay, what's be done with that?
Yeah.
Pickleball,
So the pickleball on Stevens, we already have money in the budget for that and grant money that we are looking into.
okay, do we need lighting, do we wanna talk
It
about
really
that?
comes down to, well, lighting and sidewalks are done.
Okay.
Oh, lighting for Stevens. Well,
No, that
we
would
have
be
to
a-
study that because we can't just throw lights up there because you're gonna have to, you need to let the residents in that neighborhood put their 2 cents in.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, it would solve the nighttime pickleball,
Yeah, and then you would have, the courts are already
and
there.
the courts are already there, but you have residents that have a say.
The basketball courts have been redone.
Done.
Are we doing something with baseball? Weren't we
Yes,
starting baseball?
that's going to take place here in January,
So
February.
that's off the board, I
Yeah.
don't worry about
Yeah.
that. Okay, what are we
What are
missing?
we doing with that, with the baseball?
Ball field 2.
Just
being
making an
stripped
adjustment
Oh,
to,
changing the
be turned
size to a
into,
softball field.
A softball field for the ladies' teams. They have 5 girl teams.
yeah, the girls teams have doubled the amount of teams.
Yes.
What are we missing? Pickleball, skate park, bouldering, Stevens Park.
I think it really comes down to what do we want to do at Elgin.
Potential Elgin,
Yeah.
Elgin.
Elgin
The
pickleball
pickleball
was what
court
we
at
were
Elgin.
talking about.
Right in the corner.
The corner where nothing grows. Well,
There's some nice lights there too.
We got the
Yeah.
pavilion
We
there.
got basketball court.
yeah, but I think you're gonna have a hard time with the neighbors there too. But you know, there's another thing, like, that court is probably 12 years old now, and those baskets, we just upgraded Stevens, do we wanna, do those types of baskets up at Elgin, right, like,
But isn't that something, though, that in our budget that we're hopefully
Well, and that's
putting
something
money aside for, future
Yeah,
years?
we do
Yeah.
have a budget for maintenance.
for
and
maintenance.
That's
So
what I
we
thought,
can,
yeah,
and we
okay.
can, but what we can do is just have the idea of these are the projects that we can put towards that line item. So it's less a question of funding and more sequencing,
Yeah.
right? So if we have a sense of what we're doing, we can time it out, right?
yeah. And I think the other thing, and I don't know if this is going on to the commissioner's level, but we're doing pay-as-you-go financing
Yes.
as a town. That means future residents don't have to pay for this stuff, which, I don't know if we're thinking about that at the commissioner level, how we're going to, change how we finance our budget, whether it be floating bonds or something like that, but
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
also
but-
is the impact fees that we already,
yeah, but we're all still on this pay-as-you-go, right? Like,
Yeah.
We're basically cash accounting,
yeah.
without any,
Well, there is accrual, but we don't need to get into that right
yeah,
now.
but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
we're not, borrowing.
Yes.
And now is probably not the best time to borrow. But as a town, it would have been a good idea to borrow 2 years ago, right? When rates were nothing, and we could have, financed a lot of this stuff for a long period of time. So I think from a commissioner standpoint, we need to look about how how all the additional towns go about doing this, so that we can think about how this budget works. But I'm not a commissioner, but I'm just saying, like,
What?
what's that?
You got 2 years.
What's next?
Well, that's a discussion. I think what you bring up is just a general discussion about the budgeting, which is something that I think the commissioners. would-
Absolutely.
So back to Niles'
That's my 2
question.
cents on the budgeting.
Yeah.
Back to Niles's thing. What do we think? Skate park, bouldering park, Elgin as our 1, 2, 3 for at least those 3 that we're talking about?
We
And
haven't
the
recommended anything to
Elgin-
Elgin, so we haven't recommended anything to the commissioner, so we can't include that in the budget unless we make a recommendation tonight or January.
Well, or for now, it's just, again, this is to seek for staff to do the
Oh,
work.
okay, yeah.
Right now. So if that's something that you want to come back on, we can just have it as something that we
I made
know
a-
of when making budget consideration.
I made a list, I'll send it out. I recommend that the rest of us read it. We can come back at the next meeting, prioritize the list, and send it to Niles.
Yeah,
That works.
it's fine.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Where'd here it is, my agenda go? Preston,
Preston?
your
Do
report.
you have anything else?
Okay, hey, yo, real quick, like I said, man, the lighting ceremony was great. It was a good day. We just picked up our last truck, and I did purchase a electric salt spreader for it. So I really, I know I came off hard. I'm not against the electricity stuff.
Any of us are.
No, it's just not at the point that I just bought a chainsaw just the other day. So, and I can use that on my limited things. But I was trying to stress that when we do have our big, snow events, or that one tornado, we had 48 town trees go down. There's not an electric chainsaw that will go, and we were clean by midnight, our roads were. So it's not, I'm saying, it's stuff. So I think we'll probably have a hybrid type of thing where when we can incorporate electrical stuff, we will. But as almost all municipalities, if we ever truly lose power, let's say a tornado comes through Rockville and through this area, we will be the last ones to get electrical power. And we, like our water treatment plant runs on a diesel generator, okay? Our trucks will run on, I can still get things done in the town. So, like I said.
We're all in agreement with
Yeah, but I'm just, on there.
Until the technology's there and until we have a way to.
But soon as it is, we'll be the first ones to buy. Now, the basketball courts, they set the concrete today. Wednesday, they're going to set the backboards. Stevens Park looks good. I mean, if you're a baller, I'm telling you, the kids are going to be there. It's going to be fantastic. And with something that Pat said, I would like to move for Helmo's basketball courts to be upgraded with their backboards. And we can take a look at that. We know how much they cost now.
Yeah.
So we can kind of say, we need a pair at Helmo's, which is almost as old as Stevens were, and then Elgin Park would be on the backside, because they are the newest ones. But once people see it, of course, anything, they're going to demand more. And in our town, we have a very mobile population. Our bike paths are used tremendously. Our athletic fields are... And the other, the courts and everything really are. And the pickleball, it's a tremendous big thing. And so, we are a sports-minded town. And so upgrading it makes sense because the people demand it. But they have to understand it's a cost associated with it. So where's the money, taxes or, impact fees or whatever. And, and anyways. So anyways, we're still moving forward with a lot of things going on that. So. Anyways, I think
the Halmos then basketball upgrade, was that something we would need to itemize, or would that be part of?
No, that would, same thing. We would have to put that on the board, Helmos Park basketball upgrade, because I think it's $15,000.
Just in terms of the budget, we would probably just put that in the same line item for next year as Stevens was this year. You
Okay.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that we're.
And we
all
have
on
a
the same
working
page.
price on how much
Yeah.
the backboards and everything costs.
So when it comes to that prioritization, we can just do it that way.
So that required a recommendation from the Parks Board to make that happen? Do we need to?
Or is that part of?
I mean, it's more of a, I think it's a
I'd say
question
that's a
if you
maintenance
guys
kind
want
of
to,
a-
but it's more of a maintenance thing.
Yeah, an
So
upgrade
it's-
maintenance type of
Yeah.
thing.
Well, I think we made the recommendation to the commissioners approved it. And,
For Stevens, then I'd say just do the same thing. Just if you
yeah, I mean,
recommended it last time.
if it falls under maintenance, I don't.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I mean,
I think the reason we did Stevens, because it was a citizen came in and requested it for a certain purpose. To hold her sports not tournaments, whatever. And so we make sure it got painted right, make sure it had everything, at the right light.
if we're gonna do it right.
Yeah. Oh,
100%, 100%. And actually what's interesting, the courts that are over at, Helmos are lit. So it is a high-use, facility, and it would, if we put those backboards on there, it would really take it to the next level, all the
Yeah.
way around. So anyway, that's something that we could talk about
So
at
yes
at
or
a
no?
later date.
Do we need
So
to recommend?
I'd say I'd say it's
thinking
routine
if-
maintenance. I'd say it's
Maintenance,
just
that's what I
something
was
that
But
we
he
have
could put
on
it, he could put it
But
on
I'll
his
put it-
list. He'll put it on his list.
Yeah, once we connect it, we'll put it and sequence it,
Yep,
so.
yep.
Okay,
So,
just want to make sure,
Anyway,
just want to make sure it's on our list.
Yep, and then,
Make it less clunky.
Yeah.
You get it done much quicker without having to go through, making a recommendation every single time. we
Right.
upgrade something.
yep,
Exactly.
Yep, yep. So, there you go.
Thank you.
And Bryce loves his new truck, by the way. Captain Bryce.
Jeff,
Yes.
do you want to tell us what happened at the commissioners' meetings?
I sure do. First, I was asked to bring some items forward to the commissioner meetings, and I think I already mentioned this one. The commissioners did like the redesigned concept plans, and they asked the Parks Board to proceed with the next steps towards the public input, which I think already happened tonight.
That's what we did tonight.
Same thing, pretty much, yeah, essentially the same thing with the bouldering park. The commissioners agreed with the Parks Board to go to the next step of soliciting public input towards a new bouldering park. Let's see, the commissioners, yeah, I already read that part. There was, I don't know if it's a recommendation, but an idea for the Parks Board to consider making Fisher Avenue a one-way going, I guess it would be going west. We can
That was it was a resident, it was a resident.
Make Fisher Ave.
That's been on the books for 30 years.
One way going west, and then Wooten would be one way going
One way.
east.
Loop around. So you
Yeah.
want two ways.
And there was, and,
I'd say move on.
but that was just a resident who commented on that.
Yeah. So, there was quite a long discussion about backyard chickens. So there was quite a long discussion about backyard chickens. So the Planning and Zoning Commission had been considering requests from residents regarding changing the Poolsville
It's a code,
regulation
right? Yeah.
to permit backyard chickens, because currently they're not permitted.
But they're all over town.
What's that?
Let's be honest, they're all over town, in people's backyards.
Well, if you
But which-
get backyard chickens, I want a backyard goat.
Yeah, boy, that's what I'm talking about.
Don't blow it for me.
Okay, so what was the next? So
There was
they
no- There was no
Go
discussion,
again.
there was no discussion about goats.
So what'd they decide? Where'd you guys decide?
So there was
Ed, you
no,
getting chickens?
there was no decision on the chickens yet, but there will be public comment on backyard chickens on January the 3rd, 2023.
Oh, okay. I thought you guys already had that.
Is this an issue? Did someone bring this, has there been complaints
You're not
about
supposed to
chickens?
have
Not supposed to have chickens.
I know that, but.
Well, currently
No,
backyard
they want it to be
chickens,
official. They want it to officially be allowed too, but they're, then coming up with the,
currently
saying you can
backyard
only have
chickens are not
hens,
allowed,
not-
let's say, gentlemen, yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a request by several residents, in fact, I would say a growing number of residents to allow for Poolsville to have backyard chickens. And there's a lot of regulations about, well, no, there was a proposed regulation that there will be only hens, no roosters, I think a maximum of 4 chickens. It has to be of a certain size, it has to have the chicken coop itself has to be predator-proof, it has to be set back from the property line a certain distance, and a couple of other things.
So no roosters.
No roosters.
Only hens.
right,
Hens.
because the roosters are noisy.
Roosters make a lot of noise.
But you can't have babies then.
You can have eggs.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that. But you can't have fertile eggs.
That's correct, yes.
So, okay.
Okay, so that was,
Now you gotta get rid of your roosters.
I don't like roosters.
so there will be a public comment on January the 3rd. There was also talk about the food truck ordinance did pass. Wade gave a report, the trash contract, excuse me. There's going to be a January RFP, that's a request for quote, I think, RFQ, for trash collection. And there was a discussion about either single stream or dual stream. Single stream, of course, you have one, everything kind of goes in there, and then the trash company has to separate it. Or dual stream, and dual stream is you have more than one container.
This is for recycles.
For recycles, exactly right. And the Montgomery County, over, I forget what it's called, the
Transfer station?
yeah, transfer station, they only accept dual stream. There was also discussion about,
Yeah, where's our recycling going?
ours is a single stream.
Yeah, but where does it go?
It goes to 4 facilities in PG County and in Howard County.
Oh, so.
Do we pay more for that?
So we know, because, well, technically we pay in the sense that
Yeah.
we pay
Our
for
contract, yeah.
the service that they are providing. But we don't pay them for the distance of traveling that far. We pay them to do the single
Yeah.
stream. Yeah.
There was also a brief discussion about the possibility of including monthly composting in the new contract. So that was discussed as well. None of this has been decided yet because we haven't gotten any bids back. Well, we haven't sent out the RFP yet, so that's all a little bit up in the air as to what the result will be. Wade's contract is up at the end of January.
Extend it.
And
Can a carport
I think that was,
I'm all,
I think that was definitely unanimous. So there is, there was a recommendation made, and of course, everybody agreed with it, to extend Wade's contract. I made a recommendation to extend it by a whole year. Well, so we'll see, I guess they'll decide on that at the December meeting. Or sorry, at the January meeting. Wade also mentioned that, I think it was Wade, regarding PFAs, polyfluorocarbons, is that?
yes.
Yeah, by the Maryland Department of Environment, and also by the EPA and the MDE, Maryland Department of Environment. Wade mentioned that PFAs are chemicals, they break down very slowly, and they can have a negative impact on liver and kidney functions. Wade mentioned that well number 3 had 30 parts per trillion, which is well below the EPA guidelines. Wade also mentioned that well number 2 and number 3 are routinely taken offline in winter, so they have been shut down for the winter. And also, well, the pump for well number 7 broke, and I guess they ordered a new
We
pump.
are waiting on.
Yes, not quite here yet. Wade mentioned that we're currently using 550,000 gallons per day, and the maximum is 650,000 gallons per day. Also, the denitrification filter, which sounds like a small thing, right? I have a filter for my whole house water thing in my basement, which is only that big. But a denitrification filter is actually 3 buildings that are over at the wastewater treatment plant, and it's not online yet. So that is underway. That money came from the American Rescue Fund.
No, that's there's a grant, or technically a
MDE grant.
yeah,
MDE, okay.
that's
Oh, thank you.
covering all of that.
Thank you, thank you.
Which probably came from the American Rescue Fund.
From David Trump.
David Trump gave it to me.
Yeah.
We mentioned this briefly, the SHA State Highway Authority is, we are apparently lobbying for improvement at Spates Hill and Fisher. I think Niles already mentioned this in terms of improved signage and improved reflective paint on the crosswalks, I believe it is. And the next meeting is Tuesday, next commission meeting is Tuesday, January the 3rd. There's also a couple of things happening with the Fair Access Committee. And so I think the Fair Access, well, you'll probably see an announcement from them, but there will be a White's Ferry rally. I believe it's December the 29th.
It's the
They should rename that.
20th, right? 29th. Okay, it is the
29th,
29th.
yeah.
White's Ferry.
Yeah.
At 2 o'clock, so.
At White's Ferry.
At White's Ferry, yeah. At White's Ferry. Let's see, anything else that is, I do believe I've covered everything. Yep.
Anybody else got anything we want to discuss, bring up?
I'll wait till after.
Thank you, Jeff, for getting our stuff done at the commissioner meeting.
Yeah.
What's the deal with leaves on the street?
By the way, I want to thank the commissioners for keeping Jeff on the board. He's up to speed on.
Yeah.
We didn't want a new commissioner to train up.
It takes a while. It takes a while to figure out ways to.
Yeah, after the election, I said, Jeff, please tell me you're staying on our board, man.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I appreciate you.
Okay.
Anybody got a motion?
Ed, a motion to
I got a motion to adjourn. I got another motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, adjourned. It is 8:53.
8:54. Yeah, I'm ending it now, so just give me a second.
So Jeff, I got a question here.
Make sure our things stop, isn't recording.